What are you trying to kill me for?
No,
when did you get that? You had that already?
No, I didn't. I got that last Christmas.
He's got a new tattoo.
Yeah.
And it says, if I say it out loud, I will burst into tears.
It says, meet me in Montauk.
We'll howl again very soon.
Meet me in Montauk.
Yeah, what's your other tattoo say, Paul?
No, nothing. This one. No. Okay. I saw the film for the first time when I was about 13 with my dad.
I saw it in the movie theater when it came out. I saw it twice because of how emotional the movie was. Obviously, it's incredibly visceral and epic and the kind of movie you rarely get to see made these days.
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance. In this life or the next.
It had an impact emotionally. I remember that, I guess, sadistically, I was drawn to a second time.
Go back again.
Because weirdly, it was very comforting. I remember it perfectly. It came out in year 2000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can remember what theater I was in and everything.
What theater was it? I was doing a play in London at the time. I'd met with Doug and Lucy, who were the producers of the film, in LA. And then a Zoom was set up, and I spoke to Ridley for about 5 minutes about what Gladiator 2 was going to be about. And then we spoke for the next 25 minutes about like Gaelic football and dogs. And then I thought we'd do like camera tests, but no, I found out about 2 weeks later.
I knew that the project existed. I knew that Paul was doing it. I think it started with an actual meeting with Ridley to go and sit down with him. And whether or not the movie was going to happen for me or not, I was like, I'm going to go meet Ridley
100%.
Scott. It wasn't even about getting the job. It was like, I'm going to go and sit down, maybe 5 minutes, 10, 20, as many minutes as I can. It was in LA.
Yeah.
It was at his offices. And thankfully, he was willing to talk about all of the things that I wanted to know about in terms
Everything
of
else.
other movies.
Yeah.
And that's what it really turned into.
He's a wonderful storyteller. You could sit down with Ridley for...
Give me another one. Give me another one.
Yeah.
Whose head could I give you that would satisfy this fury?
The entire Roman armies.
Too much?
The general will do.
We meet early in the film, and this is again kind of Ridley's genius. He shoots it in a way that it feels plausible, but in like the real action of that, there's no way that they would have shared that
It's like there's
moment
no,
of
it's not going to read.
connect. It's not, and he like it's just he understands.
We have a couple of those.
Yeah.
From across like the Coliseum and from one Roman ship to a fortified wall of northern Africa, and we lock eyes. Let's do it.
Ready, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
What's your problem?
Nothing. Marcus Acacius represents he's a Roman general.
I am the general.
The general of Rome.
General Acacius. There are victories yet still to come.
Rome has so many subjects. She must feed them.
They can eat war!
I'm like a lieutenant in the Numidian army. I kind of see Acacius as this, he represents everything that I hate about the Roman Empire.
Well, Roman Empire is expanding and invading Numidia just to gain more and more power, and we realize that there really is kind of no ceiling to the lust of that power.
And that's to do with the emperors, right? Played by Joe and Fred, who are wonderful. It unravels through the film that I've kind of miscalculated who I think Acacius is. He's so misunderstood.
His character misunderstands my character just like Paul misunderstands me.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
the time.
And then it kind of culminates in a big fight that we have Don't
remind me.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, we're not talking about
that's
it.
Fine.
All right. Hands on the mausoleum floor. Blood stains the Coliseum doors.
Who's the better fighter?
Go on.
I would say I'm the
Go
better.
on. Share what you think.
I would say Lucius is the better fighter.
Lucius is the better fighter. Do you want us to fight?
I don't fight in
Lucius
white.
is a better fighter.
Yeah.
Lucius is a better fighter than the general of Rome, who has survived decades and conquered. I fight four men before I get to you, and I call it off.
Yeah, but I think if you
think
hadn't
for sure
called
you
it off.
You don't think I would do some sort of mature, aged, learned?
Okay. Let me actually go back on my answer.
That would just
I think Acacius and Lucius
end it.
I think Acacius might
Kids,
beat Lucius.
You know, I love them.
Yeah, I think it's up for debate. Let's just say that.
Did you hear that crowd? The greatest temple Rome ever built. The Coliseum.
It sounds bizarre because we began together in Morocco, and I think seeing that set and the scale of the production so quickly desensitized me to the scale of
what Malta was.
What Malta was.
And the Coliseum.
Yeah, and Ridley moves at such a pace, which I actually think really helped me in it, because you don't have time to kind of sit there and kind of bask in the wonder of it, because you're shooting 3 or 4
or start to
scenes.
Build your expectations of how to meet the size of it or anything.
Because it's impossible. And I think Ridley, did I tell you what Ridley said first day of shooting to me?
What?
He came out to the tent while they were dressing the set, thousands of extras, everything, fire, camels. And he comes in and he's smoking a cigar, and we're all stood around, and he's like, "Are you nervous?" And we're all like, no. He slaps me on the back and goes, "Your nerves are no good to me," before we filmed anything. But I think it was like, it's funny, but it's this idea that this is your playground and you have to kind of step into it and own it. So I don't actually really remember my first walking into the Coliseum, because I feel like I lived in the Coliseum for about 3 or 4 weeks.
You lived in the Coliseum of your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
You have something in you. Rage. Never let it go. It will carry you.
One of the things that I have never experienced on a movie before is that there was so little left to the imagination. Mm-hmm. Me and the rest of the ensemble are together in the Emperor's Box, and there's this enormous battle that's taking place. And Ridley composed all of the off-camera for us in the Emperor's Box, with Paul leaping from one ship to another, taking 2 men down.
Like clotheslining
what would you call that? A clothesline?
A flying clothesline.
A flying clothesline.
Yeah.
Just so that we could know what we were looking at. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I remember that day. I never forgot it. That a slave could take revenge against an emperor.
The legacy of the first film is so profound and has such a strong place in so many people's hearts and minds. It's inescapable. But I was looking at it and I was like, the screenplay does a lot of that work for you in terms of the rubbing the dirt between the hands, the kind of DNA and the genetics that Lucius inherits. I remember reading the script, and there's a moment in the script where it's Lucius puts on the breastplate, and it's written like Lucius now becomes Maximus. I kind of tried to park that to one side, because ultimately where Lucius is coming from at the start of the film, he has a very different journey than Maximus does, and I was hoping that whatever DNA and even just the physical gestures was going to be one part of, and a kind of small part of the performance. What I tried to do is figure out exactly who Lucius was and where those differences lay between Lucius and Maximus.
I claim this city for the glory of Rome.
One of the things that I loved most about my character is that he's introduced in the beginning of the movie in this very epic battle sequence that I think in its own way homages the first film and the way the first film starts. But even better, we follow him back to Rome and discover his direct connection to one of the only characters that is living and with us from the first movie. And I loved being a kind of thread, an invitation into what we know from the first movie by being Connie Nielsen's man. If it needed to be hate, I'd take it as long as it was attention from Paul.
There's a moment where Pedro has this. It's so clever from an acting standpoint, but also in the script. Like you see this brutalizing force come into Numidia, and there's this section where there's the burning of the bodies, and it's one of my favorite shots in the film. Is this close up on Pedro when he says "Vae victis, woe to the conquered," and you feel like it's a really difficult thing to communicate in one line. That you see, oh, this general is kind of wearing this responsibility with great difficulty and shame.
I wasn't doing that at all.
You were very good in it.
That wasn't what I was playing.
What were you playing? No, it's very good.
There is plenty of pain waiting for you in the next life. I don't know why you are so greedy for it in this one.
I am really excited for everyone to see Paul.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but it has to be said, you are sensational in the movie.
That's very kind.
And pretty easy on the eyes. And he worked so hard, and I got to see that happen like in front of me and on the day, and just lead with Ridley, this enormous crew and this enormous cast. To get to see that on the big screen is really exciting, and I think people are they're gonna love it.
That's very kind. For a lot of us from the actors, we haven't worked on a film on that scale, and I think there was a little bit of trauma bonding that went on with kind of having to kind of feel like total imposter syndrome within it all. But to see your friends operate at that level on a film of that scale, doing like incredible work, I think across the board. I haven't seen a film on this scale for a long time that's rooted. It has the scale, but I think it also has the pathos and the performances, and I personally think it's one of Ridley's greatest pieces of work, which is no mean feat.
Yeah, no mean feat.